Now, can you hear me now? Is that good? Is the volume coming through now? I hope so. I think my mic turned off at some point. So I'm just gonna go back to the beginning, and I'll cut all this beginning out since nobody was gonna be able to hear any of that. Okay, so in the last live, let me clip this somewhere so it's not hanging weird. In the last live, we talked about why we have to learn health. So let me just do a brief overview. When we changed from agricultural to industrial age, people went to work. They weren't just running their little farms to provide for not only like income, but also like just keeping their family fed. So that shift where they went to work, so they weren't creating their own food. So then that created the need for like bigger productions, mass productions. So then it became more like few big farms rather than everyone had like their own little like chicken, maybe a cow with milk, maybe a cow they ate, all the things. So me and my family went camping last week and we bought some barbecue chips. That's one of the only chips that we'll get because they don't have like dyes in them. You'd be surprised how many chips have dyes. And on the bag, it said made with real potatoes. And to me, I was like, why is this needed? Why have we gotten to a place where we have to put on our bags made with real stuff? Like that to me is, I'm getting a little hot. I'm like typically always cold, so, but it can fluctuate. But I was like, why is this needed? Why have we gotten to a place where we have to specify that what's in the food is real? It's scary and it's unfortunate, but it doesn't need to be overwhelming learning about food and health. It can be super like empowering and exciting and just mind-blowing, honestly, to learn how our bodies are made and how they can bounce back. And there's very rare cases where you can't bounce back from something you're dealing with, and you don't have to get into the complex weeds of health to make the very simple steps of things I've talked about here before, like the salt that you use, the water intake, taking dyes out, eating more whole foods and less processed foods. Like those things alone could heal and totally transform your life. So with the bag of chips, I was saying that made me realize that maybe I should talk about the 80-20 rule. So if you're doing like 80% good, wholesome, clean, less processed, good qualities, organic, which we'll talk about that in a second, and 20% where, you might go out to eat and it's not a big deal. You can have desserts, you can treat yourself. So the 20% would be like treats, and that's not a big deal because the balance is there. So 80% good, 20% bad. 80% is typically going to be like what you keep in your home. So I'm very specific about what I keep in the home because that keeps that 80% closer. And the 20% is typically when we're out and about and we can't eat at home, or those treats where we want to just have a good time, or we're at a party and they're having things that don't apply to the things that we do at our home, and we just don't make a big deal about it. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Someone called me right in the middle. So I get all these spam calls. It's so annoying. If y'all get spam calls and you're tired of it, I wish there was some magic button I could push that they could never disturb me again. It is so annoying. So anyways, so 80-20, if you apply the majority of your life to the 80-20 rule, you work towards getting as much junk out of your house where it's easily ready, like when you're craving a late night snack, the meals you make, the beverages you go for, things like that. And so that makes me want to talk about the organic versus non-GMO. So this is actually something I recently just learned. I thought they were the same things, just, like different labels. And so I was actually talking to TJ, my husband, about it. And I was showing him that something said organic. And he was like, well, does it have non-GMO on it? I was like, so I looked and I was like, no. And he's like, okay, well, that could mean that it might still have been exposed to like chemicals or, like not pure care and raising and growing. And I was like, oh shoot. So that made me want to research. So I verified that if something says non-GMO, that just means that the plant or whatever, the food, the spice, whatever, it was not a genetically modified seed. If it says, so that does not guarantee that it's organic. So non-GMO means it's not genetically modified origin of how the seed come about. And that does not guarantee organic. Organic means that the way it was raised and cared for after it was planted or whatever, or the animal and how it's cared for, that organic means that there was no pesticides, no exposure to chemicals, and all of that. So if something says non-GMO, it does not automatically mean it's organic. But if something says organic, it does mean that it's non-GMO as well. So those go hand in hand if it's organic. But if it only says non-GMO, then that just means that the way it started was not genetically modified. But it still could have been, like, let's say it's corn. While the corn was being raised by the farmer, the corn could have been exposed to pesticides and like all the things that keep like bugs and from them dying and for them to be preserved so they make it to the store so they last longer, like all the things that people do to get the food to the store for it to stay good long enough. So that's the difference between organic and non-GMO, which was a good thing for me to understand because I can now look at labels completely different. When I was looking at something that was non-GMO, I thought, okay, but if it didn't have organic, then now I know, okay, well, this still could have been exposed to stuff. So organic would be the key one to look for. And yeah, so 80-20 rule, 80 good, 20 treats or whatever, as close to those percentages as you can be, and you should be pretty good. Organic, non-GMO, know those differences so that when you're buying with good knowledge and you're not actually spending more on a label that doesn't fully matter, because I know that it's hard to make the jump between organic and non-GMO because it's a higher cost. And so non-GMO is not necessarily going to be a guaranteed. So just make sure that you look for organic. And yeah, that's it. So I just want to make sure that everyone feels knowledgeable, that you feel empowered and you don't constantly feel like discouraged because you feel like it's too much to learn and it's too overwhelming with all of the things we're already dealing with in life. And now we have to be hyper aware of everything we put in our bodies, and not hyper aware, like it doesn't need to be crazy or unhealthy, but we do have to be aware because health has gone so far down. Like we need to be conscious about what we're putting in our bodies. So many diseases that the society is riddled with, and just pain and inflammation and like death. It's not necessary. It's not a given. It doesn't have to be accepted as part of life. And we do have something we can do about it. And there's tons of people out there that are teaching and educating people like me that are teaching more basics and wanting to help you get started on the simple things you can do, the kind of the core things you can do. And then if you want to take it further, you can. And then there's people that go into really a lot of depth, like the science and the biology in our bodies. So if you're looking for more in-depth, like I said in the last stream, Barbara O'Neill has been my favorite because she's really easy to learn from. She's got such a sweet spirit and a heart. She truly cares about it. Her journey is amazing. And also, like a lot of people out there that are teaching health, most of them are always trying to sell you something, like some supplement or powder or protein shake. And it's like, I can't buy all this. I can't afford to buy all these products. And a lot of people feel that way. And that's what stops them from this journey, because they feel like they have to have this whole pantry full of all these powders and supplements and special beverages and things like that, when that's not absolutely necessary. And so I do want to talk about one resource that I have gotten recently that I would say would be the best one to get starting out, because it's not, I mean, she does talk about brief understanding of why she's advising whatever the chapter is about, but it's not super in depth. It's and it's kind of like her guide to correct things that people are dealing with every day, like heart stuff, lung stuff, cuts, colds, flu, strep, like there's even stuff in here, I think, for like if you got like exposed, like cut by a nail and, you know, like fear of tetanus. So you'd go get a tetanus shot. Tetanus shots aren't absolutely necessary. There's ways to heal the body without giving yourself a shot full of chemicals. So that was also an amazing thing I've learned recently from her. So this is her book, Sustain Me, which you can get on her website. And I will put that in the description so that you can also go to her website where they do have products that they do formulate and make. But I do want to say that if you watch any of her content, you can just look up Barbara O'Neill. And if you're looking for something specific, like if you have high blood pressure all the time, then you can look up like Barbara O'Neill high blood pressure. And it's probably going to populate at least one, if not multiple videos. It might be shorts. It might be like her really long talks where she goes into a lot of depth. And it's really amazing because, like I said, it goes by fast because she's so easy to learn from. But I do want to tell you that if you ever come across a video with Barbara O'Neill, this I have yet to watch, and I've watched a lot of her videos on YouTube. I have yet to see a video where she is selling anything. She never sells a product. Yes, on her website, which is run by her daughter, they do have products to sell, like books and salves, however you say that word, and things like that, that you can help to kind of like boost things and get them going again or get them healed initially. And then after that, you could just maintain or whatever. But if you ever see her pitching something to sell, it's probably a AI generated lookalike video type thing. However, people are doing that these days. And I've actually seen her say in an interview, she's like, I never sell anything. And I know people have seen videos of me trying to sell something. She said, that wasn't me. So if you ever see that, then don't watch whatever that video is because it's probably not her. But anyways, her book, Sustain Me, super great. She has this thing, it's called the flu bomb. We have used it 3 times now. When we got sick, whether it was the flu or not, we don't get tested, but all the symptoms and, you know, like aches and all that. We took it once or twice. It was me and my son and my husband. And I mean, it knocked it out so quick. Like the pain and the congestion, the inflammation, the weakness. We healed so quick from the flu. And who knows, it could have been COVID. Like it's so similar, but it was like night and day. Now it's not super delicious going down, but it's a small amount. You can take it like a shot if you need to, and it's crazy. Like it works. And she gives the exact like measurements and the recipe basically to make the flu bomb. And it's just simple like day-to-day things that you can keep in your house. They don't spoil for a very long time. And so her book is a great resource. I mean, she talks about so many things in here. So I highly recommend this book as a starter, a guide to getting your feet wet on things that people you might be dealing with, people that you love close to you are dealing with. I've talked about before, my son Conrad, he had like intense migraines. And so we went on a journey of like cleansing and taking things out and trying to pinpoint what it was. And so this can be helpful to not only you, to anything that comes up, and to feel like you don't feel like you have to panic because you don't know. And so you just have to take whatever anyone else tells you because you don't feel qualified to ask questions or to kind of like feel confident in the journey that you're about to go on to heal or whatever it is. And then same for loved ones. I have people in my family that are dealing with things that I want to help them to not feel overwhelmed, to overcome and to heal because they have many years left and there's no reason to die young, to live miserable. And so anyways, guys, that's it for today. I will get this live posted and y'all can rewatch it. I went a little long-winded. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so passionate about this and I really just want to help people understand and to not feel overwhelmed by how great and beautiful this can be. So I love you guys and I will see y'all in the next one and y'all have an amazing day.